Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're doing a VCT Americas season preview for Cloud9. Cloud9 was a team that had high expectations going into the 2023 VCT season, picking up the likes of Ye and Zelsis, and then quickly after lock-in they decide to drop Ye and Vanity, their IGL, and decide to bring in two new players in Rooney and Jakey. So expectations, at least from fans, were lower because they've just dropped the best player in the world in Ye and their IGL, but they ended up doing pretty good but still fell short of expectations. Looking at their 2023 placements, in lock-in they placed 9th to 12th, losing to DRX after beating PaperX. In the Americas League, they placed 4th, but they were heading into playoffs tied with Loud for the lead in that league. So they were first heading into those playoffs and then just had a massive collapse and lost to Evil Geniuses, beat Leviathan, but then lost to Energy. So there was hope that that result was a fluke, but unfortunately it kind of ended up not being one because in the LCQ they placed 3rd, losing to Leviathan. So again, they came in with high expectations and then those expectations were lowered after they dropped Ye and Vanity, but then they got back up high when this team performed very well during the regular season, and then they just fell short in the big moments. So what do they decide to do? They still have a good roster. Maybe if they make a couple changes here and there, this could be a championship winning team, but mainly they go for essentially a full rebuild. Players out are Leaf, Rooney, and Zelsis. I was surprised that they dropped Rooney. Rooney performed pretty well as their IGL in the absence of Vanity, and he performed well overall, so I was definitely surprised that this is what we saw. They also lost Celsius. They did want to bring him back, but he opted to go back to Sentinels. And Leaf was their best player last year. I do list him as the 2023 MVP. He was one of the better players in Americas. Honestly, when we talk about top players in the world, Leaf probably doesn't get as much talk for like top 10, top 5 as maybe he should. And that's mainly because he hasn't been able to perform well in the really big moments, and his teams have not gone to international tournaments in quite some time. But he is still a very good player. He's now on G2. He should fit in well with that core. So players in replacing those 3 players, Vanity returns after being dropped early in the year, so this is his second stint on Cloud9. Oxy and Whippy come over from G2's roster last year. They both performed pretty well. Championships won by this org are 0. They have not won an international tournament in the VCT as of yet. They've really wanted to. They've built rosters that people thought could have, but it just hasn't been able to push them over the top. Looking at the 2023 VCT/VCL stats for these players, so that is the Tier 1 and then the Tier 2 leagues. Some of these players played just in Tier 1, some played in both, but we'll get to all that. Starting with the player that was on the last year's roster, Zeppa had 655 kills, 665 deaths, 336 assists for KD ratio of 0.98. He played Sova, Sky, Raze, and Killjoy. So Zeppa playing a kind of initiator flex role where he can fill in for other roles such as Duelist if needed, and he can also play Sentinel. I don't see him playing Duelist this year with Oxy now on the roster, but we will see. Moving on to Jakey, he had 551 kills, 585 deaths, 301 assists for a KD ratio of 0.94. He was their smokes player last year. He played Omen, Astra, Brimstone, and Viper. Jakey was a good pickup. I was a bit surprised at, how that all went down with Ye and Vanity leaving and then Rooney and Jakey, 2 unproven players coming in, but they both performed pretty well, and Jakey earned himself a spot on this year's roster. He's probably going to stick to that smokes role, but with Whippy also being a smokes player, either they run a double smokes or maybe one of Jakey or Whippy can be a bit more flexible. Moving on to Vanity, who was this team's IGL at the start of last year. He will be the IGL for this team. For his stats, these are combined stats from Lock-In and then him on Shopify Rebellion. He had 249 kills, 296 stats, 166 assists for a KD ratio of 0.84. When he started the year on Cloud9, he was playing Omen, Astra, and Killjoy, and then on Shopify Rebellion playing more of an initiator role, playing Fade, Sova, and Sky. So Vanity being able to be a bit more flexible than other players with the roles that he's been able to play. He doesn't seem to really specialize in one role, but he can be flexible. I do have questions about him being brought back. I'm a bit surprised that even happened. I'm shocked that that relationship wasn't just completely burned after what happened. But I guess they just buried the hatchet and Vanity will yet again be the IGL. He hasn't been able to bring a team to an international tournament in quite some time, so it does surprise me that he was brought back. But overall, he's a good IGL. Do I think he's like top 5 even in Americas? I don't even know. but hopefully he's able to get this team to some good results. Moving on to Oxy, who will be their duelist player. Last year on G2, he had 869 kills, 809 deaths, 183 assists for a KD ratio of 1.07. He played Jett and Raze, and he performed pretty well on G2. They were a solid tier 2 roster. They definitely had a bad part of their year. I believe during Split 2, they lost a lot of games. But I wouldn't really put that on Oxy or on Whippy either. They both performed to the best of their abilities, and they proved themselves to be able to join a tier 1 organization in Cloud9. So he should pick up right where he left off and be very dynamic on the duelist role. Moving on to Whippy on G2, he had 667 kills, 685 deaths, 445 assists for a KD ratio of 0.97. Not bad for Smoke's player. He played Omen, Astra, Brimstone, and Viper. So again, they have 3 players on their roster in Jakey, Vanity, and Whippy who all have experience playing the Smoke's role. I'm pretty sure Jakey's going to be able to stay on that Smokes role, while Whippy and Vanity will probably just fill in that double Smokes role when necessary, and we'll probably see both Whippy and Vanity play a bit more flexible roles. So you have 3 players that are pretty flexible and can play different roles. That can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing, because I don't see a lot of players on this roster that specifically specialize in one role, and that could definitely hurt teams when you play against top talent, where you're playing against teams that have those kinds of players. But at the same time, being able to adapt and play different comps is not a bad thing whatsoever. So hopefully it works in Cloud9's favor this year, because it did not last year. Looking at their map pool last year, it's pretty good. For their best maps, they had a 7-2 record on Lotus with an attack win percentage of 67%, while defense was 53%. On Split, they had a 4-1 record with an attack win percentage of 62% and defense of 58%. For their worst maps, is kind of slim pickings. Again, they had a good map pool. Haven definitely had their number though. 2-5 record on it with attack 62, defense was 32. Bind, they only played 2 times, but they didn't win either of those matches. 0-2 record with attack win percentage of 20%, defense was 33%. So they were a solid team last year. They had a good roster, they had a good map pool, they just couldn't get it up in those big moments, and they couldn't win when it mattered most. So hopefully this combination of players that has some tier 2 talent that performed really well last year, some players that have experience with this organization, and they do have some decent firepower. Looking at their stats, they're not fantastic, even the tier 2 players, but they're not bad either. This roster strikes me as not mid, but I just kind of look at it and go like, okay. They went for a quote budget roster was the word being tossed around when they were putting this together. They've performed okay in the offseason. It's been pretty up and down depending on the tournament, but nothing really matters until they get to the VCT. So that will be where push comes to shove. There is an opening in Americas to dominate and to be a top team, because a lot of rosters are scattered and changed now. So if Cloud9's able to play structured, able to play smart, able to just play a really smart, good Valorant, they should be in a good spot. But can their talent match the talent of other top teams in the Americas? I guess we'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think Cloud9 is going to be a really good team? Do you think they're going to be really bad? Is this going to be similar to last year where they look good at points and then just collapse at others? Please click like if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.